Welcome back to Switch to Linux. This is Tom. So today I wanted to look at one particular news article that I saw today on ArsTechnica. And the thing is I really like ArsTechnica. It's generally a great place to go to get what's going on in the tech world. But unfortunately, we find some extremely clickbaity articles at times and things that take an approach that I'm not quite sure if they're editors and or their journalists are really evaluating things quite well. Because I saw this article, and it was written yesterday. Sometimes I'm a day behind my news, just depending on how busy the day is. And I saw this article this morning, and I was like, that's interesting. And it's one of those few articles where I read the whole article, and then I read through, I think, almost all the comments at the time. And I'm looking at this over going, that's interesting. So I went to my Linux computers, and I decided I'd run some tests. So here I'm going to show you the article. All right. So the article is 0 Day Hitting Fedora and Ubuntu Open Desktops to a World of Hurt. And the subtitle says, if your desktop runs a mainstream release of Linux, chances are you're vulnerable. So what he did here is he went through and he talked about this vulnerability that is discussed inside of Linux, having more to do with how some media functions are handled. Kind of, in a way, he didn't really specifically mention anything like isolating out any particular software programs, but that's kind of the move in computer systems, where Windows right now is starting to create little sandboxes for things, and even Mac is starting to move some sandboxes of things. On an iPhone, all of the apps run in their own sandboxes. Of course, there has to be some interplay between these sandboxes people are talking about and the rest of the operating system. They're not so totally isolated. If they were, you couldn't share data in between them. So if I'm onto an app with, for example, like Facebook or something, and I want to talk about the, saving images or whatever else, I have to allow the app to open images from one source to another. Well, that's kind of what's going on, and there's really nothing in this article that's new, except what I'll tell you about, which really is not right. So if you remember back to the controversial part, if you remember back to the controversial news situation back in 2013 that kind of started the whole Rule 41 issue, and even in the letter from the Department of Justice back to the Congress and the Senate clarifying what they were doing, was about this this ring by the FBI to de-anonymize Tor users. And how the Tor users were de-anonymized, to my understanding, and understand that I haven't read all of the articles, I don't know all the details for sure, but I believe what I heard that they did is they took advantage of a JavaScript exploit embedded with the media files. So if a person downloaded a media file, like an image or a video, and they opened the file up when they were still connected to the internet, then it would allow some JavaScript to run. And you can indeed embed JavaScripting and programming scripting and other things inside of a particular media file. And that is certainly a concern if you are going online to the internet. So what this guy wrote in this article, he's talking about this 0 Day. Now, he specifically brings up Fedora and Ubuntu. I'm going to tell you first and foremost. Oh, this is so funny. Because Fedora itself is such a pain to get any media to work on at all. I can't even conceive of getting this to work on Fedora. I'm sure you can. And I'm sure it's actually not that difficult. Okay? Ubuntu, maybe. But we'll get there in a minute. So what he's doing here is this guy developed a media file, FLAC ending there, and the media file was supposed to open up. It was supposed to open up a looking for my mouse there. Wrong computer. I have too many mice floating around on my desk. What was going on here is he created this media file that would open up. In this case, he chose it to just call and open up the calendar, or the calculator. And that was just kind of his way of showing that you could execute any program inside of this. I'm not sure if that's a program anything or just any program that's pre-installed in the computer. He probably picked the calculator because there is one on Ubuntu and there's probably one on Fedora. I can look at that in a moment. But then what he did is he's talking about, especially if you're using Chrome, which is kind of funny because really Linux users don't use Chrome. We might use Chromium, but we generally don't use Chrome unless there's a good reason. I put Chrome on my Ubuntu computer because I'm part of the development team on a video game that uses Flash-based technology still, and that was the only way we could get it to run on a Linux system is to run it through Chrome. And I haven't tested that on every system or platform, but that's, I have Chrome on that computer for that. I don't use Chrome. I don't trust Google and the proprietary stuff that they put inside there. Chromium, though, is a different story. But I use Firefox, and I'm not sure what the percentage are, but I think a lot of the Linux people probably do use Firefox, especially based on the number of distros that come with Firefox pre-installed, but not necessarily Chromium. Okay, so he's talking about going into a, if you go into a malicious website which forces the download of this file, that forcing the download of this file will cause the file to automatically open. And so what he does here is first he runs this little video, and hopefully you can see it as I push the play button here. This is a 19-second video. He's basically going in here, he's entering the location media file, and you'll see that it automatically downloads that file. And then the calculator pops up. That's what he says. Okay, and then he goes down and he comes down to Ubuntu, the exploit ending in MP3 that works when a user either views a folder containing this. So he didn't provide access to his MP3 file that he's using, but basically going into the folder opens up the calculator is what he's alleging here. So this is what this video is showing. Now he is not, at least I did not see a place where I could download so I could test that MP3 file. But I do have the FLAC file that he tested. So he's talking about prime candidates for exploitation. And the funny thing is that I think what he did is he picked two of the most commonly known Linux desktop distros, being Fedora and Ubuntu. And I think he just put these in, maybe not even realizing how difficult it is to actually get media working with Fedora. So what I wanted to do here is I really wanted to look at this, and I'm going to show you this, what happens when you run this in Fedora 25. I'm not going to show you Ubuntu just because I don't have Ubuntu on the virtual box here. I did look at this in Linux Mint, two different versions of Linux Mint. I looked at it in Linux Mint KDE, Linux Mint Cinnamon, a Linux Mint Cinnamon fresh install on a virtual box, Fedora, I looked at it on Ubuntu. I could not get any of his exploit working anywhere, period. So here's what we're going to do. First, I took my Fedora, which was Fedora 24, and I updated it to Fedora 25. So you'll see it says 24 up here. This is actually the title of the virtual box. And here it's Fedora 25. Now you'll notice it's not full screen, and that's simply because unfortunately the guest editions did not carry over into the update, and as the system's running here, I could not quickly and easily get the guest editions working on this. Maybe if I did a fresh install of Fedora 25 on this, I could get it to work, but I don't know. I just pulled this settings screen up to show you that this is Fedora 25. We got there right in the system settings and Fedora. So you can see we are on 25, which is what they quoted in their article here. And what they did is, now he's doing this in Chrome. So I actually just installed Chrome here just a moment ago. So if there's a first run Chrome screen, we're going to see that. This is a VirtualBox, and I am recording HD video at the same time, so this is going to be a little slow. What I'm going to do, though, first I'm going to copy the link. This is the link that he gives you inside the video. It's security.appspot.com/security/SPC/Fedora.flac. Okay, so here's my, no, I do not want good old Chrome. No, I do not want to use usage statistics and crash reports to Google. Thank you very much. You can butt out. All right. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to paste that in to Google Chrome. And what you'll see is it automatically downloads the file. No calculator program just popped open on me. Maybe calculator's not installed. I don't know. But he kind of made it sound like, hey, if you're just running the basic system, then you are. Hey, here's the calculator. Let me click the calculator, make sure the calculator works. Calculator works. So here I just kind of did a drive-by download simulation of this media file, and nothing really happened. Let's go check out the downloads folder, shall we? Oh, not documents, downloads. Okay, there it is. In fact, if I click on this, it should probably tell me that I need a different codecs. Maybe not. So I don't know what the guy's talking about. I just basically simulated it. Now, I'll talk about what's going on here in a minute. So here it is. Additional codexes are required to play this thing. So the thing's not even going to work. It's downloading some podcast I had streamed before. Now, here's how the Firefox handles that same thing, by the way. As I said, a lot of people, Chrome right now, unfortunately, is the #1 browser. And I get that and understand that. But really, I mean, those among Linux, I don't think Chrome is used all that much among the Linux community. But Chromium is an open source version of Chrome. It's basically Chrome without the Google's proprietary software. So here's what we're going to do is I'm actually going to put that same link over here. Notice that it does not automatically download. It gives you a prompt. So if you're searching on a website and all of a sudden you get a prompt to download something, if you weren't expecting it, you want to hit cancel and probably leave that website very quickly. Okay? So that's kind of how Firefox handles this. And, as I'd said, I hadn't actually made any real changes to the system, at least none that I can recall. This is kind of the default behavior. And this is probably why Firefox is a slightly safer browser than the ability to just automatically do drive-by downloads. Now, one person in the comments did say that you could prevent this vulnerability inside the Google settings if you go in here and you can turn off, and I don't remember exactly where this is. It's probably under settings. And basically what we're looking for is the option to download. You can probably get onto an internet search and find this faster than me hunting for it. But basically, okay, right here. If you just come down here into your settings, click down into your advanced, and click ask where to save each file before downloading. If you go ahead and do that, now anytime we have anything, it should not do any drive-bys. So here you can see it prevented that from doing the drive-by downloading, and it instead comes over here. But still, regardless, I'm still not seeing the ability to just automatically run this this file. That's just not what I'm seeing here. So what seems to be the problem here? Well, there is a package, and I have it over here on the screen, and it is this libgme, which according to the comments, I have not had a chance to do all the research here. But this program is kind of like a music emulator system. It allows certain emulation file types to play on a streamer. And it's generally not really installed by default. But this guy here, gst-plugins-bad, Actually, I'm not going to be able to copy that from here. I cannot copy from the host into the guest machine. But if I go in and I update and install this plugin, if I even can, I mean, I am in total live mode now. I did not do even testing or even looking up. This might be like a Debian only package, in which case it's not going to do anything for me. But let's see what happens. Nope. So this doesn't exist. So here we have an example of just an article that's, you know, sensationalistically telling us that the whole Fedora Ubuntu 0-day opening desktops up to a whole world of hurt. It's a sensationalist article title. By the way, as of yesterday, Debian already released a patch to fix this, assuming you have this package installed. I checked all my computers, by the way, which I intentionally make friendly to media files. None of these packages were installed on any of them. Linux Mint, Cinnamon, Linux Mint, KDE, Fedora, Ubuntu. I looked at them all today. I don't have this plugin. So what I'm going to do now, actually, is I'm going to not run that right there full screen over my screen there. What I'm going to do here, well, actually, while that's booting up, I'll talk about a little bit about the virtualization. So the virtualization is a neat concept. Edge is starting to support it in Windows 10. There's a few other Windows programs, I believe, that are starting to use it. I'm not sure about Mac OS X. I think so. And I'm pretty sure that everything on iOS runs in kind of like these sandboxy modes. Basically, it allows you to de-escalate kernel functions. And this article even goes on down here to say that Linux doesn't run anything inside of these platforms. And in reality, way before Windows did that, way before Mac did that, Linux has had SE Linux and AppArmor, both available. A little bit more complicated to work with, but for those that want to use those systems to put all of those things in, like all of the programs and whatnot, inside of small virtualization tunnels, you can do that. It's an availability within Linux. It's not set up necessarily by default on your traditional Linux distros. However, just because it's not set up by default on your traditional Linux distros doesn't mean that this exploit is a problem. Yeah, so I looked at every one of my systems here, and I have not encountered this problem here. So for whatever that's worth, you know. All right. So what I'm going to do here, when this is ready, I think we're pretty close. I'm actually going to boot up another Linux machine, and I'm going to boot this into Ubuntu. And this is running just a live key, so this is not installed. This is just an Ubuntu out of the box. And let me grab the link here. Okay. Oh, where are you at? Okay, there you are. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to come down here and I'm going to, you know what? It's probably just better if I look up the article, isn't it? I can, actually no, because the link's not in the article. I still have to manually type it in. Okay, so what was that? That was security. appspot.com is that security? Yeah. This PCs Fedora.flac. Okay, so here's like a total out of the box. As long as I type that in right. Total out of the box, not even installed, open live key. This is Ubuntu 16.04, which is the version of Ubuntu they referenced in the article. And you can see here that it actually gave me the prompt. I'm going to go ahead and save it. Why not? I'm not going to hurt anything here. So we're going to... No, don't boot up Firefox again. Go over here. We're going to go into Downloads. I'm going to stop Firefox from loading up again. Okay, so here, obviously they had referenced that this should be an MP3. I don't know. Let's see what happens if I just change this to MP3. Okay, I've changed it to MP3. I don't have no idea if that would even solve it or do it. I have no clue. All I know is that he gave me a video where he showed me downloading the FLAC file through Chrome on Fedora, and he gave me a folder with a .mp3 file in it. That's all the guy gave me in this article. Ending in MP3 works. Let's double click the MP3, see what happens. Okay, so the codecs is not even available. So here's, in fact, you can see what the codecs is here. SNES-SPC700. You know what that means? That means that this thing's looking for a codecs file for a Super Nintendo media file. Not exactly installed by default. So just for fun, oh, not that. Not that either. Just for fun, let's boot up a terminal. Alt, Control, and T should bring up a terminal in Ubuntu. Let's sudo apt-get install gst-plugins-bad. I can't seem to find that one either. So, I mean, I can't really find the particular plugin base they're talking about. It might be a third-party repository or whatever else. The bottom line, the message here is that this article from ArsTechnica is so it's so negative towards the Linux community, and then undoubtedly people are going to look at this and go, there's security vulnerabilities on Linux too. Look at this. This is crap. I'm not saying there's not security vulnerabilities on Linux, okay? Not at all. Because any operating system is only as good as we are as users at securing the operating system. And so we need to make sure that we are being intelligent in what we're doing. We need to make sure that we're not visiting shady websites. We need to make sure that we are, we're using an appropriate amount of caution in what we do. But one of the key things, though, that we want to make sure we're doing is we want to make sure that we're not just blindly following any article and suggesting that whatever the journalist writes is necessarily true. Because this article, from what I can see, this is not a true vulnerability. This is not a true anything. Now, if you happen to get this program on here and you had this particular libgme package to play a Super Nintendo file because maybe you run a Super Nintendo emulator on your Linux distro and you've worked hard to get it there, this exploit could very possibly occur. But this is not something that's going to open up desktops to a world of hurt. Come on, ArsTechnica, you're better than this. Oh, you're better than this. But this is the world we're in. We need to sit back and recognize that no computer ever is going to be completely secure. Windows isn't going to be completely secure, Mac OS isn't going to be completely secure, and Linux is not going to be completely secure. If you're that paranoid, the only thing you can do is you can take your computer completely off the internet, you can pull out the wireless card, so it couldn't possibly connect to the internet without putting anything in, and you'll be left with a computer that you could do some things with, but you couldn't interact with the world with. And maybe that's your choice. That's cool too. Regardless, there are definitely some Linux bugs out there. There are definitely some Linux exploits. But here's another question. In Linux, when an exploit like this is found, it is usually patched within a day. This one was, I mean, it was released like 2 days ago. It was patched like yesterday, I think. This particular article came out yesterday, the same day the bug itself was patched. And so it's already been patched for those running this stuff. Man, on Windows, that wouldn't have even been done until, what is it, Patch Tuesday, I think it is? Apple, you wouldn't get the update unless you upgraded to the latest operating system. Which might be more fraught with bugs than anything else. That's kind of that. Don't buy into sensationalist articles. When you see an article and it looks a little odd, read it. Seek to understand it. Ask some questions. See how valid it is. There are definitely things talking about valid Linux vulnerabilities. This isn't one of them. This has been Tom, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.